Chris Crenshaw, and we are live from the 704 once again for episode 66 of the 815 Exchange. And ladies and gentlemen, last week was, of course, homecoming for me, and we'll talk about that for the college football segment. But had a lot going on last week. Had a bunch of exams, had, again, all of homecoming. And then just it was a packed week in sports, so that's why preface for the entertainment segment. You won't be hearing about the Eternals till next week. I've actually managed to avoid spoilers for the most part, so don't go spoiling in the comments. But you'll hear about that next week. But we got plenty, and I mean plenty. As you can probably tell by the title, by the thug, we got plenty, and I mean plenty to talk about on today's episode. As always, remember to like, share, and subscribe. We have passed 400 subscribers, so I appreciate that. I appreciate the love. What else? Description, everything you need. Timestamps. You want to go to entertainment. You want to hear what I'm talking really about music this week, or you want to go to the NFL, what I thought about the NFL this week, or the World Series. Whatever it is, feel free. Timestamps in the description, and as always, my social media links are, of course, in the description as well. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, men and women, wherever you are in the world, it's time. And it was time for combat sports to shine, and that's why it's taking precedent over every other segment today. And it's why we're starting with it. And we're going to first start off with boxing, the pound-for-pound king. It was two pound-for-pound kings defending their crowns on the same day. What a wonderful night. What a wonderful night for a combat sports fan. But of course, we're talking boxing first, and we're talking Canelo. Canelo Alvarez. Saul Canelo Alvarez. Cinnamon. One of the greatest boxers of this generation, quite possibly the greatest boxer of this generation. The unanimous pound-for-pound #1 king. Don't at me. Took on Caleb Plant for the chance, the opportunity to join Josh Taylor in this year's Undisputed Club and become the first man to ever become undisputed at super middleweight. Yeah, super middleweight, yeah. And well, ladies and gentlemen, it took 11 rounds. It took 11 rounds. It took a little time, but exactly what we thought happened is exactly what happened. And Canelo Alvarez, King Canelo, is undisputed. Now, Caleb Plant, gotta give Caleb his credit where credit is due. He put up a heck of a fight. And it was a good fight. It was a good fight as well. He showed that he had the skills. He looked like he belonged. He looked like he belonged in there with Canelo. But at the end of the day, there's levels to this. There are levels to this, and you could see as the fight wore on, the body work Canelo does is just so good. It's so good. And it wore on as the fight went on, as we got into the later rounds, as we got closer to the championship rounds. The body work, it had its effect on Plant. And he started to break down. As the fatigue set in, he started to break down. And Canelo, like he always does, was able to find those holes. And dude, I mean, he hits like a train. So it just, Caleb started to wear it. And 11th round, after that first knockdown, I think he should have took a little bit more time to recover, get back up, and, figure out, get his legs from under him, because I don't know if they were fully there. And yeah, it was done. It was like, Canelo literally ran after him. It was like a predator seeing prey. He smelled blood in the water, and Canelo, as he always does, capitalized and is now the undisputed champ at 168. And fully deserving. And I love the way he went about this, undisputed in 11 months. It's what's made Canelo one of my favorite fighters today. That's still active, because just the way he approaches the game, the way he goes about his business. You have to respect it. You absolutely have to respect it. He is the pound-for-pound #1. Caleb Plant, no shame. I'm glad they cleared the beef, because both of them are good dudes. But Plant, you just happen to be, the last one left, and you're facing a generational guy, a generational type guy. So You know, you had a nice world title reign, but now it's time for the king to reign. What's next for Canelo is going to be very interesting because I don't know. A lot of people, you know, he could go down to 160, go after, you know, some of the people there. I think I'd probably subscribe to the 3Bs. We got Benavidez, we got Bivol, and we got Berbatov. So possibly moving up to 174, 175. And getting in on the action there, I think would be very, very interesting and compelling fights for Canelo. But yeah, the world is his oyster. You know, he's got many of options, and yeah, just a legendary run this past year has been for Canelo on his way to undisputed. And 160 really feels like home for him. It really, really feels like home for him. And yeah, pound for pound, best boxer on the planet. It's not up for debate. It's not up for debate. A lot of things are up for debate when it's not up for debate. This one's not up for debate. Now, let's talk about the pound for pound king in the UFC, because UFC 268 followed up last week's UFC 267, and of course it was headlined by a series of rematches, and of course a banger that was guaranteed to bang, and in fact did bang. But of course we're going to start off with the main event here. Kamaru Usman, the Nigerian Nightmare, took on Chaos Colby Covington in one of the more heated rivalries, in the sport, between Colby and Kamaru. Even though Usman has kind of backed off of more so like the trash talk, it's more of him just kind of responding to Colby, trying to incite him and, you know, get into his head to really no avail. Of course, Colby moved gyms for this fight. I was very interested to see what changes Colby has made. We've seen Kamaru, right? We've seen Kamaru. He's been active. He knocked, I mean, one of the most insane knockouts you will ever see against Masvidal earlier this year. Took out Gilbert Burns. And we've seen him with Trevor Whittman, who was going for trying to go 3-0 on this card, by the way. Was the guy in 3 of these big fights, all 3 of them. He had a person in there. So shout out to Trevor Whittman, one of the best trainers in the world. Usman we've seen Usman, you know, develop, get better, fight to fight to fight. So it was interesting to see if Covington was going to be able to keep up. And well, first 2 rounds, including a dazzling round 2, in which I think, well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about the scorecards. But could have been argued for a 10-8, 2 knockdowns for Kamaru. It looked like Colby was in trouble. It looked like classic Kamaru. He was dominating. It was like, okay, it's looking like this might be the end. But then Colby Covington showed why he is considered the second best welterweight in the world. He showed why, and he fought back. He recovered from the knockdowns and won, I would say, round 3 and round 4, in my opinion, and made this fight very interesting going into round 5. Covington, once again, the striking ability. Kamaru, while he's gotten better as a striker, there's little holes in his striking game that I was still able to see, and Colby was able to take advantage. Not perfectly, but very, very well, and he was able to exploit those holes and was able to grab 2 rounds, even it up, and really put this game on the shelf heading into round 5. But in the end, Usman was able to get it done in round 5. He gets the UD in what was a tremendous welterweight championship fight. I think those 2 are the best welterweights in the world. Of course, Colby showed a lot of respect at the end of the day. I honestly want to like Colby. I want to. I don't think he's the villain that he portrays himself, the whole gimmick. I don't think, deep down, I don't think that's who Colby is. I think when you see him let that guard, let that facade down, he's a much better person, a much more likable fighter. But I get it. I understand it from a marketing standpoint. I'm a marketing student. You gotta get the attention. You gotta get the people to watch somehow, and that's how he did it. Fair play. But he also has the skills to pay the bills. He's got the skills to back up all of the talk. Unfortunately, he happens to be fighting. I think Usman said something similar to this. He happens to be fighting at the same time, or for our benefit. Thankfully, he is. But for his detriment, he's fighting at the same time as Kamaru Usman, who is just, I mean, he's going to be a legendary MMA figure. This win streak is insane. He's approaching, I think, what is it? Anderson Silva. I think that's what it is, the one he's trying to catch. But yeah, Usman he's still the best, still the best, still the best in the world, pound for pound king. I mean, I don't know how you can really argue that one either. John Jones hasn't been active. Izzy still has the loss, to John recently. Volk is moving on up. I will say Volk is moving on up. But yeah, Usman's got to be the pound for pound king in MMA. And I think well deserving of this win. And where to next? I think Leon Edwards, if he gets the win, he gets the win in the next fight. I think Leon got to be next. Still some interesting matchups for Kamaru. And then I think I see retirement possibly on the horizon. Though him versus Chimaev, if we get that, if Chimaev keeps winning, that could be so much fun and so interesting. But nice to see them also wrestle. Speaking of Chimaev, we got to see Kamaru and Colby wrestle, which is something we didn't see in that first fight. But nonetheless, Kamaru gets the UD. In the co-main, we have Thug Rose get the UD over Zhang Weili in the second fight. And once again, Zhang Weili jumped out on it in, I think, the first 2 rounds. Similar to Usman, right? Jumped out, Rose, it was taken, she was having some trouble figuring her out. It was clear that Weili had made the necessary changes to possibly win this fight, right? The defense, it was all just better. It was better. It was very visible that she had trained much better for this fight, and she was much more prepared for Rose. But Rose, Trevor Whittman, make the necessary adjustments, started getting the timing going in round 3, got it going in round 4. Fight was on the line in round 5, similar to the main event. Rose was able to get it done, was able to get the UD. Again, razor close fight. Razor close fight. Very evenly matched, but Rose able to get this fight to the ground, able to adjust the game plan on the fly, right? When things weren't working, she was able to find things that did work, and that's what a champion does. I wasn't so sure during parts of this fight. I was like, okay, Weili's about to get this title back, set up the trilogy, but Rose was able to get it done. She showed the necessary improvement in the fight, and adaptability is one of the best things you can have as a champion. So all credit due to Rose. Very impressive performance, and yeah, she retains the strawweight title. She moves on. Now let's talk about some blood sport, man. Let's talk about some blood sport. The third headliner of this wonderful card was Justin-Gaethje versus Michael Chandler. And there was no way, absolutely no way that this fight was not going to deliver. And well, it delivered. Gaethje's a beast. JG, he's a beast, all right? He's a beast. He's next in line, all right? He gets winner of Olivier versus Dustin. He gets the winner. Undisputed. I mean, a fantastic performance. Weathered the storm in round 1 and then came back and he fought the smarter fight, and he got the well-deserved win. It's why he's one of the best in the world at lightweight. But Michael Chandler, oh my god, dude is a savage. He's a savage. He's a psychopath. Chandler is an undisputed, he's a psycho. Even though JG had the incredible performance, the image from this fight that's going to be ingrained in my mind is Michael Chandler wearing the crimson mask, walking towards, continuing, taking shots. For everything that was said about Chandler's chin ahead of the fight, he showed he had one. Chandler walking forward, hands down, talking to Gaethje, taking shots and still somehow standing up and continuing to fight. That was one of the best fights of the year. Absolutely a fight of the year candidate. I wish it was 5 rounds instead of 3, but it was absolute war. They delivered. Of course it was going to deliver. It was Michael Chandler versus Justin Gaethje, right? We all knew this was the banger that we all knew was going to bang. And my goodness, did they deliver on Saturday night in a fight that's going to be remembered for a very long time. Both men, even Chandler with the loss, their stocks rose through that fight. It was just... Only thing I'll say is, I think if Chandler, even though he was dead set on the gladiator, I'm willing to die in this just absolute brawl. If he would have focused more on trying to actually win the fight, he may have been able to, do a little bit more, might have made that decision a little bit more interesting. But nonetheless, it was still just an absolute. It was Roman Coliseum type. All right, it was gladiator type. It was absolutely insane. Chito Vera able to KO Frankie Edgar. Now listen, I'm not as high on Chito Vera as everybody else in the world seems to be. Dude's a dirty fighter. I don't really like Chito. I'm not gonna be honest. I'm not gonna be honest. I'm going to be honest. I don't really like Chito. I don't think he has that high of a ceiling, and he's grimy. Dude is grimy. But I have to give credit where credit is due. He got the KO over Frankie Edgar here. I love a front kick. I don't know why people don't do it more, because a lot of people will block on the side, but they leave their chin open. So I would love to see more people attempt this, because I feel like it can, end up in results like this. Chito continues to move up. Again, I think he has a ceiling capped as like a gatekeeper. I could see him being like the gatekeeper to, he's never going to be elite, but if you're elite, you'll beat him. So I think that's where his future is. Frankie needs to retire. He didn't look bad in this fight until he got knocked out, but hang it up, bro. You're a legend. You're headed to the Hall of Fame. Hang it up. We don't need to see you take any more damage. And to end off here, summarizing UFC 268, Alex Pereira, formerly known as the best kickboxer on the planet, made his UFC debut. He's also known as the guy that knocked out Israel Adesanya, the only man to ever do that. Yeah, he got the KO in the second round over Andreas. Flying knee, it's deadly. I mean, that's what he does, though. That's what he does. If you watch Alex Pereira, this is nothing new. If you try to get into a kickboxing match with him, you're going to lose. You are going to lose. And spend too much time on the feet, it's not going to work out for you. Pereira gets the big debut KO. Barnett with that KO on Gian Villante. A dude that big with the reverse round. Just insane KO. Finished it on the ground. Probably one of the KOs of the night. And of course, Burgos gets the UD over Quantrello. Quantrello looked good, but Shane Burgos continues to move up. Well-deserved UD there. But UFC 268. Great card, a lot of great performances, and yeah, combat sports. I have to be honest now here about this college football segment. Before, of course, I talk about this. I was going to come on here. Actually, I was going to make a video last week, or I was going to make a TikTok, and I was going to rip the College Football Playoff Committee a new one. I have to talk about this first. But I was like, you know what? Let me just wait and be validated by what happens on Saturday, and of course, that's what happened. But, the CFB committee, first off, it's a joke. Those rankings, it was like they literally were like, what's the worst possible rankings we could have? What's the worst? The worst possible rankings we can have. And they went for it. And they did exactly that. And they ended up looking like fools on Saturday. I'll get into it as I go through the teams that were involved here. But it was atrocious. How can you say that you're doing this off of the eye test and have Bama ranked second or have Mississippi State ranked at all, and we'll get to them, right? How do you do that? How does that work in your mind? Because clearly you're not watching the games, you're not looking at the results, you're just going off of reputation, and that's not how this works. That's not how it's supposed to work. You said you're supposed to get the best four teams, but you seem incapable of doing that. So maybe we need to go back to the BCS, because it seems like they had got it right. Because the AP poll got it right this week. But the College Football Playoff Committee just seems to be too ignorant, too stupid to be able to comprehend and understand football, which is funny because they're supposed to, that's their job. But they seem to be unable to do that. But nonetheless, let's talk about what happened this week and how foolish the College Football Committee looked. Before we get to the national schedule, of course, we got to talk about homecoming. Now, it's been a bad 2 weeks if you're a Charlotte fan, and if you're a Charlotte student, all right? We've been down horrendous. We lost 45, I think, to 14, I said on here, to Western Kentucky last week. All right, we were down bad. Homecoming, we needed a win. We needed to get that fifth win, get us one win closer to second time in school history having bowl eligibility. This was a must-win game. And for most of the game, it looked like we weren't going to win. It looked like we were going to be down and out. We were going to be down bad. I can't remember the last time we've had a through-game losing streak, but it looks like that's where we were headed. But on this day, Charlotte football returned to Jerry Richardson Stadium. It was homecoming, so naturally we had to do the most Charlotte ways of doing things. And of course that meant we got the win 31-24 in overtime, and Club Lit was once again lit. But my goodness, this team, this school, we refuse. We refuse to win in any other way except dramatic fashion. Now, is it extremely stressful as a fan and as a student, as a supporter, and as a friend of the people on the team? Yes. Okay? It is extremely stressful. It is extremely frustrating. But it makes for great entertainment. Listen, if you're not going to our football games, alright, you're missing out at this point. If you are a Charlotte student and you are not going to the football games, you are missing out on free entertainment. Free entertainment. Of course, we waited to the fourth quarter, down and out, to rally, score in the last 2 minutes twice, and then send it to overtime and get it done. CR3. He seems to do this seemingly week to week. He'll have a game, and I'm like, all right, he wasn't great. But then I look at the stat line, and the man went 20 for 29, 292, and 3 touchdowns. Had 2 fumbles as well and got rocked, but he's one of the best players in the conference. I mean, there's nothing else to say. He's one of the greatest players we've ever had, and certainly one of the best players in the conference this year. Definitely the running for Conference Player of the Year, I would think. Also, a special shout out to Trey Kramer, because 3 was locking up, man. 3 was locking up. One of the best games I've seen a cornerback have in my 3 years here. One of the best, I think possibly the best game I've seen a corner have. Dude was locking up, did a great job. Rice did a great job, but you know, y'all started talking too much. I think the student section got into the head of some of your players. You know, they lost focus. You know, they were talking about score, boy, score bad. Hey, what's that? Well, what now? You showed up, you tried to spoil homecoming, and it didn't happen. Niner Nation, Club Lit is lit once again, 1 win away from bowl eligibility. Let's get it done next week. We get the win. Now let's talk about the national schedule, because Lord Jesus, it was ugly. Ohio State wins 26-17 over Nebraska. Now, I've said this before about C.J. Stroud. I think C.J. Stroud is he's a pretty good quarterback right now. He's a pretty good quarterback. I think he'll be a good quarterback one day. He is not the guy that y'all say he is. Now, sure, he threw for 400 yards again. We'll talk about why he threw for 400 yards, though. And we're also going to talk about the fact that he had 3 turnovers in this game against Nebraska. He's not that guy. He's not that guy. He's not the guy that you should have at the top of your draft boards unless you're trying to get fired. Could be a good quarterback one day, but he ain't that dude. He's not that dude right now. But you know who is that dude? With Garrett Wilson out, Jackson Smith Nyaja. Oh my goodness, JSN went berserk. 15 receptions, 240 and a touchdown. They have the best receiving corps in America. Do you understand now? Garrett Wilson's a first-round, at least talent, probably a first-round receiver this year, right? They also have Chris Olave, probably a first-round receiver. The guy that they filled in for Gary this week, Julian Fleming, former #1 receiver in his class, I think number 3 in the country, right? Best receiving corps in the country makes C.J. Stroud look good. Now, he has some good plays, but Stroud definitely has a lot to work on, and he is aided, and I mean aided, and elevated by this receiving corps and players like JSN who can go for performances like this and lift this team to that next level. Now, they didn't even look like the next level with him there. That defense still looks suspect. The offense, I mean, is sometimes it's brilliant. Sometimes it's like, okay, what's going on? Ohio State did not look good in this game. They did not by any means. JSN looked good, but this was not a great performance for Ohio State. Nebraska once again losing by single digits. It's just been heartbreak all year. Wake Forest in North Carolina. North Carolina, I mean, it was going to happen, right? It was inevitable. Wake's defense was going to catch up to their electrifying offense. It was inevitable. And this was the game where it was going to happen. I had a feeling, and it's exactly what happened. UNC gets to win 58-55. Now, I left to go to our game, and, I saw Wake up by 2 scores. I was like, okay, they had just scored. They got the momentum. They got this. They got this. They're going to remain undefeated. ACC still has a chance. It's over. Sam Howell went 320 total, 3 touchdowns. Ty Chandler possibly stole the show, though, with 213 and 4 touchdowns himself. Sam Hartman, having the year of his life, had one of the games of his life. 476 and 7 touchdowns. A.T. Perry, 6 receptions, 129, 2 touchdowns. Roberson, 7 receptions, 111, 2 touchdowns. You would look at that Wake stat line from the Big Three and you would think, okay, they won this game. But no, they do not play defense in Winston-Salem. They need to learn to play defense. If they want to regain or get any chance of making any noise or getting anywhere close to the playoff after this, you gotta learn to play defense, because y'all been in way too many. Now, it's been very entertaining for a neutral viewer, but y'all been in way too many shootouts, and it was eventually going to backfire. And the UNC offense with Sam Howell was good enough to make it backfire in what was probably one of the games of the week. But UNC gets it done. Heartbreaker for Wake. Dream season spoiled. But yeah, I mean, it was going to happen. You can't shoot out with everybody, and you saw what happened here. Ole Miss and Liberty, was supposed to be the battle for QB1. But I'm going to be honest, it wasn't much of a battle. Ole Miss gets to win 27-14 over Liberty. Malik Willis is not that guy. He's got the raw talent, but I would not pick him I would not pick him as high as some of y'all had him being picked. I would not pick him that high. Were all these interceptions on him? No. But the man still had 3 interceptions and a fumble. That's 4 turnovers. While on the other hand, Matty Ice had, 20 for 27, 324, and a touchdown. Yep, that's QB1. Matt Corral is QB1. He wins the battle. Liberty, a rough game for Willis. But yeah, NFL scouts, for all 15 of y'all that showed up, for some reason the Lions didn't show up. Take note. Willis, raw talent. Let him sit for a little bit. Maybe he's that guy. But he's not better than Corral, should not be anywhere. I wouldn't pick him in the first round personally. But nonetheless, going for Ole Miss. Illinois and Minnesota. Minnesota had no business being ranked. No offense to, Minnesota fans. Y'all had no business being ranked. Again, y'all were used to help prop up some of those Big Ten teams, i.e. Ohio State, make them look real nice. And then you got ran all over by Chase Brown, who I got to put respect on. When he ran all over us as a third string, I was like, okay, come on, what's going on? But I got to put respect on my boy's name. Dude is cold. 147 on the ground for him. But Illinois, I mean, the defense shut down. Minnesota is not that. They did not deserve to be ranked. Illinois gets to win 14-6. Cincinnati, the number 2 team in the country. The real number 2 team in the country, even though they did not look like the number 2 team in the country, if I'm being honest. But they still should be number 2. Tulsa took them to the brink. And I mean the brink. They nearly made everybody who had been riding for Cincy look horrific. If he doesn't fumble that ball, then we would have been in the torture rack this week. We would have been on the torture rack on episode 66. But Cincinnati survives. Desmond Ridder, 317, 3 touchdowns. Alec Pierce is number 1 target. 5 receptions, 113, and 1 touchdown. But Tulsa, oh so close. Oh so close from spoiling Cincy season and justifying that number 6 ranking the CFP committee gave them. But nonetheless, Cincy gets the win. Once again, it was ugly all week. And of course, we'll talk about their main competition and what happened there. But before we get there, we got to talk about Baylor. Because Baylor riding high off the win against Texas, it all came crashing down. Their bid to become state champions all came crashing down. Because TCU put it on them, 30-28. Chandler Morris specifically put it on them. 531 yards and 3 touchdowns for Chandler Morris. Johnston with 5 receptions, 142 and a touchdown. Abram Smith did have 125 on the ground for Baylor, but it wasn't enough. Oklahoma has just, let go of some of these QBs, right, that couldn't make it over, Superman and Spencer. And Mordecai and now Morris have balled out. At their transfer locations, and he balled out and was the reason why TCU was able to take down Baylor and pull the upset. But yeah, congratulations to TCU. Baylor, welcome to the pit of despair. Auburn, also welcome to the pit of despair. TAMU gets the win 20-3. After singing Auburn's praises last week, they were awful. They were awful this week. Spiller had won their team. TAMU scoop and score was the only touchdown. It was not a pretty game. Down bad Auburn. Purdue is the most dangerous team on the planet, bar none, if they're playing a top 5 team and they're unranked. Do not play Purdue. Do not. Find any way to get out of that game. Ohio State, I'm talking to you right now, because Purdue is unranked and y'all are ranked probably whatever, number 3, I think. Run. Pray for your life. There is no team and there is no quarterback more dangerous than Aiden O'Connell in Purdue when they're playing a top 5 opponent. The man went 40 for 54, 536 and 3 touchdowns. He would be far and away the Heisman winner in Joe Burrow fashion if he only played top 5 teams. They did this to Iowa. They did it in Michigan State. In Ohio State, the Grim Reaper that is wearing that brown and black is coming for you. It's coming for you, and I don't know what to do. And the Grim Reaper's name is not Aiden O'Connell, even though he's been a monster in these games. The real monster is David Bell, because he's one of the best receivers in America. He's one of the best. He needs to be in wide receiver 1 conversations. I'm going to say it. 11 receptions, 217. I feel like he does this every week. Besides Drake London and Jahan Dotson, even more so than Treylon Burks, who is the scout's new favorite. I like David Bell. I do. Just consistent production in monster games against great opponents. Now, Kenny Heisman still had 146-1, but this will be a black mark even though because they lost the undefeated season. And it just opens up the playoff even more. Purdue. It's scary, man. It's scary. I thought spooky season was over, but Purdue is still out here slaying top 5 opponents. Arkansas, Mississippi State. Listen, that was a joke. 17. Y'all had the audacity to rank Mississippi State 17th. That is a joke. KJ Jefferson, 19 for 23, 191 and a touchdown. Johnson on the ground, 107 and 2 touchdowns. Now, sure, Will Rogers had 36 and 48 and 417 and 4 touchdowns for y'all. Listen, he's a Mike Leach quarterback. He's going to put up numbers. Mississippi State did not deserve to be ranked. I don't even know if they deserve to have votes. And y'all ranked them 17th to help boost up Bama, make them look better, have another ranked win. Mississippi State is garbage. In terms of they're garbage, bro. And that's why Arkansas beat them here. That was an idiotic decision, and it got corrected real fast. Real fast. Bama and LSU. Bama, once again, number 2 team in the nation apparently. And if LSU had a competent quarterback, they would have 2 losses right now. They would have 2 losses. Bama got the win 20-14 because Max Johnson can't play quarterback. They didn't even have stink. They had the young boys playing on defense. And this amazing Alabama team, right, who has a fluke win, I guess, against Texas A&M. The number 2 team in the nation, Bama. And y'all barely beat LSU. After barely beating Florida, who just fired their OC in DC. You cannot watch an Alabama game and look me in the eye, committee, Mike Barta. You can't look me in the eye and tell me Alabama, with what you've seen on the field this year, is the number 2 team in the country. You said to Cincinnati, besides Notre Dame, who else have they played? So I would like to give you this question. Besides Texas A&M and their win against Ole Miss, who have Bama played? Who? Mercer? Mercer's supposed to strike fear in the hearts of everybody. Florida by 3 points. LSU's backups with the head coach about to leave. Who has Bama played? Y'all are massively overrating the SEC this season. Even Auburn just got murked by Texas A&M. And Texas A&M is playing with their backup quarterback, who had an awful performance in that game too. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Now, staying in the SEC, I have to give a shout out to my boy, Hendo. Hendon Hooker in Tennessee get the win against Kentucky, who are no longer ranked after this. 45-42. Hendo, 15 for 20, 316 and 4. Putting on for the 336, putting on for the city, man. Hendon Hooker. If you didn't know, now you know. I said it 3 weeks ago. I probably said it last week. One of the best quarterbacks in the SEC. If y'all would have started him from the jump, Tennessee, you might be able to make some noise. Now you're working out of it and still might be able to, but you should have started Hendon from the jump. One of the better quarterbacks, I think, in America. Wan'Dale Robinson's one of the best receivers and just offensive weapons in America. He had 13 receptions, 106 and a touchdown, but it wasn't to be. Tennessee outguns Kentucky. And to wrap up this segment, UGA, #1 team in the nation, undisputed, 43-6 over Mizzou. JT Daniels returned. Though Stinson still got the start, but JT got back in action. Georgia, of course, got the win in dominant fashion. That defense is ridiculous. Even without Adam Anderson, still ridiculous. And, of course, UTSA better be ranked. Committee, that's all I'm going to say. They better be ranked, still undefeated in the CUSA as well. No excuses. No excuses. You're ranked at this point in time. You better be ranked. You better be ranked. If you're undefeated, you better be ranked, and you better rank them because they deserve it. But yeah, that was an interesting, chaotic week in college football. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to head over to, I'm not even going to call it entertainment. It's music. It's music this week, all right? It's music. Everything we're talking about is music. We're not talking about any TV shows. We'll talk about the Eternals when I get to watch it next week because I couldn't do it this week. We'll talk about that next week. You know, episode 67, if you're looking for that. You want to hear me talk about Icarus and Chloe Zhao. That's next week, all right? We're talking about music this week because it was a tragic week and it was also a very good week. Let's start off with the tragedy. Let's start off on the low note, okay? Travis Scott started off Friday by dropping 2 great tracks. Escape Plan, Mafia feat. J. Cole, tremendous songs. It was looking all good for Utopia, right? Looking all good for Utopia. 2 great singles. There were 2 great tracks. If you haven't listened to them, well, after I say this next thing, and we'll talk about what happened next, you can determine whether you still want to listen to it. Astroworld Festival. It's supposed to be a big festival in Houston, Texas, in his hometown. A lot of great artists. He brought Drake out. SZA was performing. I think Earth, Wind, and Fire was supposed to perform. It was, or so wait, not that wasn't. Or was it Earth, Wind? Somebody. I don't think it was Earth, Wind. So it was a bunch of great artists, a bunch of Cactus Jack artists as well. Anyways, Astroworld. Previous years I've heard people love it, so. But as you probably should know by now, it turned very, very tragic. It turned very, very tragic as 8 people lost their lives. And there's a lot of places where we can place blame. Some of it, of course, to Travis. For, you know, because he's the head guy, he's the top guy. It happened during his set. He didn't stop the concert, right? Which I can get. Being on stage, it can be hard, but it felt like it should have been there should have been a better communication channel. But because he's the face, Astroworld is his, right? He gets some of the blame, and he's getting lawsuits, of course, now. Live Nation definitely needs some of the blame for just how poorly run and how poorly executed the event was for 100,000 people. Should have had more stations, should have had all this stuff. You should have been prepared, right? You should have been prepared. Also to the people in attendance also have to share some of this blame. Now, I'm not talking about the people that, were trying to help and were heroes in some instances. All the love and respect and thank you for what you did and for what you tried to do. Much appreciated. But for those that in attendance that, caused that storm, caused that, crowd surge, for who ruined security by breaking down the gates and acting like you had no sense and had no etiquette, no festival or concert etiquette, no mosh etiquette, and you just, ran through the barriers, right through security, just trying to be extra and buy into the whole rage culture. This is also on you. The blood is on your hands as well. If you don't know what happened by now, beginning of Travis's set, he brings out Drake. They're going up, but while that is happening, the crowd just kind of surges and makes a bum rush towards the front of the stage. Of course, two of the biggest artists in the world, they lost their complete mind. And in that way, people were getting trampled, people were suffocating, there wasn't any space. People were pushing each other, people were hitting each other, a bunch of crazy, just madness. People described it as hell. So, as the concert goes on, of course, Drake leaves, and after that, it went to crap. It just went to crap, because at that point, people still didn't move, still didn't etiquette, had no etiquette, and it deteriorated. People died, people got sent to the hospital. It was a tragedy, an absolute tragedy, and that's the best way I can put it. My condolences goes out to everybody that lost somebody, that meant something to them at that event. Head of the Clouds also was this week. Head in the Clouds. It was fantastic. I watched it on Amazon Music. A lot of my friends went. They were definitely, I actually wanted to send out that text, and say, hey, guys, be safe. Because, after something like that happens at one festival, going to another very large festival, not as probably big as Astroworld, but still very big, you want them to be safe over in, completely different states. And it all went well. Head in the Clouds. Maybe that's an example of how you should run a festival, because that went out fantastically. But it was a dark week. It was a dark week for Travis and just everybody in Cactus Jack, because it was awful. It was absolutely awful. But moving on to more of the positive, I guess staying with 88 Rising, Rich Brian did drop a new track, New Tooth, which he also performed, but New Tooth, absolutely fire. Can't wait for the album. That was, what a song. What a song. It was fire. It was fire. New Tooth by Rich Brian. If you haven't listened to it, go ahead and listen to it. Production, bars, had it all. Fantastic track. But my favorite song of the week came from Silk Sonic, who have the album dropping this Friday, thank God. Smokin Out The Window. I think I might like this even more than Leave the Door Open. Anderson, they cannot miss, bro. Anderson and Bruno. Even though we're only getting 5 new tracks, they cannot miss, bro. They just cannot miss. This is going to be one of the best albums of the year. Even though we've already heard 4 of the songs, it's still going to be one of the best albums of the year. Smokin Out The Window. So good. So smooth. It's a sound that we haven't had and we're getting. And it's just, they're perfect, man. What a duo. What a duo, man. What a duo. If you haven't listened to Smokin Out The Window by Silk Sonic, please bless your ears and go listen to it. Yellow Tape 2, Key Glock. I'm not going to give an official rating, but just know it's in the 8s and 9s. Yellow Tape 2 delivered just as the first one did. Eve, Tooley, Something About Me are definitely my first listen. Those are the ones I remember off the top of my head, standouts. But we're going to go do second listen, but he didn't do much of any missing on this album. It was fantastic. Something about, Glock's just delivery. His delivery. Now, the material is very similar and probably can get old and may get old, but something the way his delivery and is just so different. It's so different. The beat selection was fantastic. Yellow Tape 2, fantastic album. If you haven't listened to it already, highly recommended. But that was a very bittersweet week in music for sure. Moving on here, let's talk about the end of a curse. The World Series ended last week, and my, the Atlanta/Georgia sports curse, it's over. It's over. The Braves, even without Ronald Acuna, after they had to go get an entirely new outfield, after it didn't even look like they were going to be in the playoffs, do almost like the halfway point of the season, The Atlanta Braves rallied, came together as a team, and through Jorge Soler's MVP performances, were able to get the win here in Game 6, and were able to get the win over the Houston Astros. The good guys won, ladies and gentlemen. The good guys won. The good guys won. They proved me wrong. They won the World Series. Dansby Swanson, Freddie Freeman, man. You gotta love Freddie, man. You gotta love Freddie. This is a very likable Braves team, by the way. Max Fried's great performances, pitching, just it was a treat to watch this Braves team in the playoffs. The way they just came together and, you know, proved that they're bigger. You know, they're bigger. Even, you know, it's not him or Acuna. He's, again, one of the best players in the world. But this is a team sport at the end of the day. The best team will win, and the Braves were the best team. Astros deserve some respect, you know, on the cheater notion. Like I said, I feel like it was almost like a Bond situation in the sense that they cheated, but I don't think they necessarily needed to cheat, you know what I mean? They always had the talent, but nonetheless, Braves, congratulations. Huge win. World Series champs. Doesn't get any better than that. Does not get any better than that. Congrats to the city of Atlanta. Congrats to the ATL. Now for the week in the NFL. And of course that kicked off with the Thursday night football. The Colts got the win over the Jets, 45-30. Now Mike White, everybody was singing his praises. He got injured very early on, so no Mike White conversations this week. But we are going to talk about my boy Michael Pittman Jr. continuing to emerge as one of the best. I mean, he's the number one guy. I love T.Y. Hilton. Mike is the number one guy. 5 receptions, 64, and a touchdown here. Carson Wentz probably played his best game of the season. 22 for 30, 272, 3 touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor. He was my RB1. He was my RB1 last year, right? He was my RB1 coming out the draft. Games like this is why. I knew. If you watched him in college, dude was the complete package. 19 carries, 172, and 2 touchdowns. JT, he's a beast. He's a beast. Going to be one of the best running backs in the world for a long time. Colts get it done though, 45-30. They needed this win. Jets had a lot of momentum. Johnson didn't have a bad performance. Elijah Moore had 2 touchdowns. But at the end of the day, it wasn't to be. The Bengals are in free fall. The Browns traded away. Well, they didn't trade. They released OBJ. Just wasn't working out. Hate to see that happen because I really thought that could have been something special. But Browns look like a better team, as they for some reason always do without OBJ. They look like a better team this week, and on the road dominate the Battle of Ohio, 41-16. Baker goes 14 for 21, 218, and 2 touchdowns. Nick Chubb, two-headed monster, 14 carries, 137, 2 touchdowns. No Kareem Hunt, but of course, like I said, Chubb was there. Myles Garrett is winning Defensive Player of the Year. Now I remember Trevon Diggs, but he's kind of cooled down. But Myles Garrett, listen, dude's on pace to break the sack record. I think he's up to 12 now, had 2 in this game. Living up to that number one pick billing, and one of the best players in just the league. He's the Grim Reaper. He's the Grim Reaper for quarterbacks. Burrow's been struggling these past 2 weeks. Really the Bengals have in general, but Browns, huge win. I would listen, this is why I didn't get hope. You know, I'm a Cowboys fan. I've been a Cowboys fan, so I'm used to it, right? I'm used to the disappointment. We were getting dirty owed at home by the Broncos. No disrespect, by the Broncos. We had Teddy H2O looking like the man. 19 for 28, 249, 1 touchdown. Javonte Williams, however, 17 carries, 111. Teddy H2O did have 2 touchdowns, had 1 on the ground. Dak struggled, the running game struggled, just everybody struggled. Malik Turner came out of nowhere in garbage time and made it look better, but the Broncos completely dominated us. Nothing else to be said there. In the matchup between 2 of the worst teams in the league, the Dolphins get the win 17-9 over the Texans. Tyrod Taylor threw 3 picks. There was 5 combined interceptions. Don't really need to say too much more about this game, right? You get the point. Tyrod threw 3, Brissett threw 2. It was ugly. It was ugly. Falcons get the win over the Saints. Once again, a team that was looking like they had all the momentum in the world. More disappointment. This was a week of disappointment in football. The Falcons, however, get the win 27-25 and inch closer and closer. Even though a lot of people were low in the Falcons this year, they're getting closer and closer to making some noise in that NFC South. Now, Are they on the level of the Bucks? No. But that wild card, I wouldn't say is too far out of reach. Matty Ice, 23 for 30, the original Matty Ice. 343 and 2 touchdowns. Cordell Patterson continues to be fantasy greatness. Didn't get it done on the ground, but he went back to his wide receiver tendencies. 6 receptions, 126. Shout out to Cordell. He's been a breakout this season. And Simeon got the start today for the Saints, of course. Jameis Winston out for the season. Going to be interesting what the Saints are going to do to going forward. Simeon wasn't bad, but, for the winning they want to do, it wasn't to be. Falcons get it done. Well-deserved win. Giants beat the Raiders. It's been turmoil. Henry Ruggs. You know what? I'm not even going to say too much about Henry Ruggs. You know it went down. He's going to jail for a very long time. It's stupid. Listen. Do not drink and drive. Do not do it. Do not get in the car with anybody that's drinking and driving. If you have a friend that's drunk and that is insisting on driving, call an Uber. Take the hit. Just don't do it. Do not do it. Do not do it. Just don't do it. That's all I'm going to say about that. It's been a rough year for the Raiders. It's been a rough year. Derek Carr is trying to lead. He's trying. All respect for trying to lead, but it's just Giants get the win. Jones, very efficient day, but Giants get the win, but we know what the bigger story there was. The Patriots. A lot of people we're talking a lot. We're talking real reckless about Bill Belichick, man. Y'all, we're talking real reckless about one of the greatest of all time, and y'all got to ease up. Y'all officially got to ease up. It was the 24-6. It wasn't this close. This game was not this close. Mac Jones wasn't the reason why they won this game. The defense was the reason why they won this game. J.C. Jackson with that 88-yard interception return was huge. The defense. The defense is clicking on all cylinders. Of course, the Panthers were a great recipe. Sam Darnold's not the answer. 3 picks. He was atrocious. CMC was back. Of course, he went over 100 yards. Nice to have him back. But, Pat's defense shuts him down. They get the win. And the best defensive battle of the week, however, belonged to the Jaguars and the Bills. The Bills, one of the best teams, possibly the Super Bowl favorite heading into the week, got beat by the Jacksonville Jaguars 9-6. Trev dealing with the sprained ankle he got in this game, but this was the Josh Allen game, and not the Bills' Josh Allen. No, he had 2 picks, and it was rough. But the Jaguars' Josh Allen, Kentucky Josh Allen, had a sack, forced fumble, had a picked off. I think it was played the game of his life. Played the game of his life against his other namesake. Field goal bonanza. If you're a kicker, it was a great game for you. If you were a neutral watcher, why did you watch this game? Jaguars get the win. Vikings and the Ravens. The Ravens get it done in overtime. Another Baltimore rally. It looked like they were in trouble, and of course, Lamar Jackson able to get it. He's a closer, man. Lamar is a closer. Lamar is clutch. He is clutch. This is not up for debate. Lamar, he's clutch. 27 for 41, 266, 3 touchdowns. He also had a 1,220 on the ground. Hollywood Brown, 9 receptions, 116. Kirk Cousins, not a bad game, 2 touchdowns for him. Jettis had a touchdown. Dalvin went over 100 yards. But they couldn't shut the door down, man. They couldn't close the door late. And the Ravens were able to rally in the fourth quarter, get the win in overtime. Justin Tucker, you know how that goes. You know what happens. One of the best kickers of all time. Chargers get the win over the Eagles. They needed this one. Jay Herbo returned, 32 for 38, 356, and 2 touchdowns. The Slayer made his first appearance really this year. 12 receptions, 104. Shout out to the 336. The Chargers. Well-deserved win. Bosa was wrecking havoc. The Eagles looked like, how the Eagles were supposed to look, right? We didn't have too high of expectations. 3-6 feels like an Eagles record for them this year. Though Devonta Smith, have to give credit there. 5 receptions, 116 and a touchdown. But Jay Herbo in the Chargers roll. The Chiefs and the Packers. Now the big story, of course, from the Packers camp was, of course, the status of Aaron Rodgers, COVID protocol, the whole Joe Rogan, ivermectin, just the whole fiasco there, him lying about his vaccination status. Now, I could believe that maybe, he had the allergy or whatever, but just everything that transpired after that was a fiasco. It was a fiasco, but you know what else is a fiasco? These two offenses are a crime. And it's crazy to say that about the Chiefs, but Pat Mahomes is just still not working. It's still not working. Now, Kelsey got back in the box, but having Mahomes on my fantasy team is pain. Jordan Love was not ready for prime time, and it was an ugly, ugly game, and an ugly week continues for those two teams. The Cardinals get the win over the 49ers, 31-17. Kyler got knocked out in this game. Colt McCoy had to show up, 22 for 26, 249 and a touchdown. Impressive stuff. Did enough to get the win. Of course, James Conner stole the show. 96 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground, 5 receptions, 77 yards, and a touchdown receiving. Great game for James Conner. Looked like the old James Conner. And yeah, big win. A huge, huge win for the Cardinals over the 49ers. Congratulations. And to end off this NFL segment, of course, the Titans took on the Rams. Titans get the win 28-16, even without King Henry. Once again, it was a week of top-tier teams disappointing. In the NFL, they got upset. In college football, they escaped. The Rams were not so lucky, and like I said, they got upset. They moved to 7-2. Titans also 7-2. While it was clear that the Titans did in fact miss King Henry, the defense showed up huge. Picked off Stafford twice. Were able to cause those needed turnovers. Tannehill, not his finest. But again, Titans did enough. Sometimes that's all you need. You just got to do enough to get it done. Byard's pick 6 ends up being massive in this game. And the Titans were able to get the win on Sunday Night Football, 28-16. We'll see how that goes for the rest of the season. Both those two teams, 7-2. We'll see where they trim. And to end off episode 62, as I take a sip of the Deer Park unofficial water sponsor, we have reached the Roundup, and we're going to kick off by the end of the NASCAR season approached, and Kyle Larson got his 10th win of the season to get a well-deserved NASCAR Cup Series championship. He's the best driver. He's the best driver in NASCAR, undisputedly. One of the best drivers in the world, I would go as far as saying. He deserved it. You win 9 times in a season, you better win the championship. He got 10 here at Phoenix. He was the best. He was the best all season. I always felt like he had this talent, and I knew when he was going to Hendrick, even before it was announced, I was like, he's going to be a problem. He's going to be a problem because he's just such a great driver that putting him in the best equipment, it was a recipe for success. One of the most dominant NASCAR seasons of all time. I know we had the stuff that happened last year, the reason why he was out of racing and out of a job, but, it's tough. It still is tough, but gotta believe that people can grow and learn. And I'm going to have to believe that Larson did grow and learn from that experience. And congratulations. The sport is better, I have to say. When you have a racer as good as he is, when he's able to race, it's better for the sport. And I just hope that he did grow and learn. And of course, well-deserved, well-earned Cup championship this year. This week, college basketball returns, ladies and gentlemen. On Tuesday night, college basketball returns, and basketball segment will return next week with MLB gone. So we will either have NBA or college basketball. It's gonna be back. I know we didn't talk about the NBA this week. Nothing too big happened. The Robert Sarver with the Suns, that did happen. That's get him out of here. But NBA, college basketball, we back. All episode 67, we back. And to end off today's episode, MLS legend, American soccer legend, Chris Wondolowski retired yesterday after 17 years in the MLS. One of the best players to ever do it in the league. All-time leading scorer, 171. An absolute legend in San Jose as well. Shout to Wondo. Fantastic career. Wish you all the best. Thank you for everything you did for the league. And hope you guys enjoyed. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it was a pact, and we had some dark points. We also had some light points last week, but yeah, hopefully you guys were entertained. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember to like, share, and subscribe if you did. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, for episode 66, Ocho, signing off.